Today, we are going to take a look into one of the earliest elite duelists in Yu-Gi-Oh! History, Rhymus Lizo. Anyone who played in the early days between 2005 and 2010 knows the name, and the team he is associated with, Overdose, which featured powerhouses such as Chris Perovic, Anthony Alvarado, Brian Cornell, and more. Rhymus got his start while waiting for class in his senior year of high school. A few of his classmates were playing a game and he happened to ask what it was. They recommended him to watch the cartoon that aired every Saturday morning. He tuned in and instantly fell in love. Shortly after, he bought a Kaiba and Yugi starter deck, and this is where the story really begins. Rhymus is originally from Jersey City, New Jersey, the self-proclaimed greatest city in the world. He played at a local store called Bayon Comics, which would turn out to be an incubator for some of the world's greatest players. After discovering the game in 2003, Rhymus' competitive spirit and will to improve caught the eye of other talented players in his area, who would later become his teammates, travel companions, and close friends. Between 2003 and 2005, he would travel to every regional he could afford to attend, sharing ideas with some of the greatest minds the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Would ever know, namely Chris Perovic and Anthony Alvarado, which would in turn shape his own mind and sharpen his abilities to the point he became one of the world's toughest competitors, even if only for a short period in time. Traveling to tournaments with a gang of his closest friends and some of the world's best gave him a sense of confidence and excitement, as they would often tear through the field and take many of the top brackets in any given tournament. His self-proclaimed highest achievement was when he won his first regional, where he took down fellow teammate and good friend Chris Perovic. This took place a week before he went on to capture third place in the Shonen Jump Championship in New Jersey the week following, where Ryan Hayakawa from California and friendly rival would take the championship from him on his own turf. This was a particularly historic event, as it would turn out, as in the early days of the game, Comic Odyssey was decidedly and recognized as having the best players, while Team Overdose had a self-established bone to pick with them and an eye for overtaking them eventually as the world's best team. As fortune would have it, Team Overdose took third and fourth place at this event, while Comic Odyssey took first and second place. Fiction cannot come up with a better plot than this, and for it to have come to fruition in real life is nothing short of remarkable. Early into his career, Rhymus had the unfortunate twist of fate to be diagnosed with psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, which gave him immense pain while competing in Shonen Jump Championships and other large-scale events. Rhymus reminisces having to take breaks on long road trips where his clearly faithful friends would help him apply his medication so they can continue on the voyage wherever it would take them. This obviously meant a lot to Rhymus and went a long way to strengthening their bonds of friendship, which they all share to this day. The pain caused by his condition weighed heavy and created challenges for him in competitions, often distracted by the pain he experienced. It even went so far as to leave him bedridden for 6 months. The commitment of his friends, however, shined through here, as they would visit him during his darkest times to play games and give him haircuts. This twist of fate forced an early retirement for a legend who may have went on to accomplish many feats in the game, but whose legacy has no doubt been carried on by his team, who would eventually become one of, if not the strongest teams in North America. Before he retired, however, in his short 2-year career, Rhymus was able to win a regional, top many others, and made top 8 cuts at 2 out of 3 of the major Shonen Jump Championships and national events he attended, all in 2005. For those of you who don't know, Shonen Jump Championships were the most prestigious events next to nationals, where often the best players from across the nation and even world would travel to compete for high-value prizes, grandeur, and glory. In December 2005, Rhymus officially retired from the game and moved to the Philippines, where he would seek treatment for his medical conditions. Between 2006 and 2010, when traveling back to the States, he would make an appearance at 5 major events, sporting records with only 2 losses for an entire event, just barely missing the top cuts. For someone who didn't have as much time and commitment to the game after retirement, these records are incredibly impressive and show an incredible understanding of the principles underpinning winning Yu-Gi-Oh! Strategies. What exactly drove the drastic success of Rhymus in such a short period of time, one may ask? It was his team. Being surrounded by some of the sharpest minds in the game, one naturally picks up on their thought patterns and implements them into their own perspective. He and them would spend countless hours testing out every deck they could imagine, fine-tuning, and often spending 8+ hours a day dedicated to their craft. Early during these practice sessions, Rhymus realized that all the good players in the game had a primary focus, and what would turn out to be a weakness: card advantage. Rhymus would scour the metagame coverage and see how all the best players would focus on card advantage and disregard life points for the most part, always seeming to quote-unquote come back at the last minute to take the game. Often what was happening was the best players understood that accumulating resources gave you options to seize control over the game, and the player with the best options typically has the upper hand. Realizing this weakness, Rhymus saw that the best players often left themselves vulnerable to kill shots. He took advantage of this weakness by incorporating burn tech cards in his main deck like Cannon Soldier and Ceasefire, which when applied at the right moment could steal an otherwise lost game. While certainly not standard, this is just one example of the kind of thinking that Rhymus deployed on a regular basis to give him advantage in unexpected ways. His courage to step outside the normal lines of thinking, combined with the feedback of his teammates, pushed them all to the head of the pack, often making metagame predictions weeks or months before anyone else on the continent began conceptualizing them. Rhymus may have had a short-lived career in Yu-Gi-Oh!, but he has gone on to conquer other areas in life nonetheless, with his self-proclaimed greatest accomplishment being a father. Some of his greatest insights and takeaways from the game that have remained guiding lights throughout his life has been an appreciation for patience, dedication, and humility. Patient enough to learn from the best, dedicated to put in the daily effort it takes to become better, and humble enough to recognize that there is always someone out there better than you who you can learn from. Aside from being a family man, Rhymus spends his time as an accountant, as well as works with the United Nations and military for the Department of Peacekeeping. From humble beginnings in Yu-Gi-Oh!, Rhymus remains a legend to the game and continues on a track of excellence in everyday life, with a clear eye on what is important: family, friendship, and bettering society. With that concludes the story of Rhymus Lizo, a Yu-Gi-Oh! Legend. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.